would like to introduce our lady, our author from the book I Am Every Woman, the lovely Julia Record. And as yet, I haven't met Julia face to face. We still only know each other through Zoom, but it's been a wonderful journey in getting to know everybody. And we actually had quite a deep conversation a few months ago now, I think, Julia, but we actually spoke again on a level of understanding from where we both now live our lives. So just a little bit of a background about Julia. Having lived in Hong Kong and the US, Julia's long-term home remains Westminster in London. She works as a leader in hospitality communications and is a specialist in issue management. In 2015, Julia faced her very own personal crisis when she was unexpectedly diagnosed with 3 brain tumours. Julia embraced the challenge with focused acceptance and was determined to see the life-changing episode as an opportunity to transform herself and create a lasting legacy. She is currently chair of the fundraising arm of a social enterprise, Debate Mate, which offers world-class comms training from classroom to boardroom, mainly in schools in deeply deprived areas. Guided by her animal spirit, the lion with its strength and resilience, Julia garnered courage to confront her uncertain future following the serendipitous discovery of the brain tumours. She has now added a further animal totem, the hedgehog, with its intuitive inquisitiveness and protective qualities. Now let's find out why Julia's favourite song is David Guetta's TITIUM, as she takes us on her journey of self-discovery and second chances. Back to you, Anu.
Thank you so much for that. And I'm very excited to have a conversation with you, Julia. And like I said, there are no coincidences. 2 women who are so beautiful inside out. And I happened to meet both of you last week over the Zoom, never before that. So I want to find out from you, why titanium, why titanium, why not any other name?
Thank you, Anu. Titanium, I think, is one of the strongest metals and known for its resilience. And it was actually a song by David Guetta that I wasn't familiar with before, but my partner at the time highlighted it to me, and I played it, and it gave me just such a sense of hope and a real strength of spirit. And yeah, my skull is held together by titanium, and I'm very pleased actually to have that in my head in more than one ways, and also to have a dent in the side of my head from where they took the skull off. But it's a great kind of battle wound to have.
Julia, your voice is not clear.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know the Zoom's at the loudest. Is that a bit better if I lean forward and really shout?
To lean forward. It's absolutely fine.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think my laptop is not.
Don't be sorry, please. So Julia, it's not easy to find out that, oh my God, you have tumors in the brain. How did you take that news? Because it's like, so I'm going to say this how it comes. I went to my dentist and my dentist said, hey, you know what? That's not the only tooth. That's not okay, sweetheart. You also have another root canal. And maybe we'll have to remove this one. And I just sat down like this and said, oh my God. This wasn't a tooth. This is a tumor. I want to know, what did you feel? How did you cope up? What was going on in your brain? What's the talk that you gave yourself and said, I'll be fine. Thank you.
I felt incredibly blessed, actually, that they found the brain tumours. And I know that may sound odd, but to put it in context, I'd had the main brain tumour, meningioma, for probably 20 to 30 years without any symptoms. And although I'd had it for 30 years, they said I was literally weeks of having brain damage. So to me, to have that discovery at that time, it was like, oh my God, I'm just incredibly lucky that I know this now and I can do something about it. Otherwise, very slowly, I think it would have been the people around me that would have seen me bumping into things, losing eyesight, my face would have dropped, lost hearing, and it may have been more apparent to other people perhaps than myself. So I just felt, oh my God, I'm so lucky and something's there trying to keep me alive. The fact that I've had it for 30 years and I'm literally weeks of having brain damage and it gets discovered. And it was pure serendipity because it got discovered, as I said, I had no symptoms, but I had lost a little bit of hearing in one ear. And I had a bad ear infection, I was flying a lot, and it was that the ENT surgeon, ear, nose and throat surgeon said you better have an MRI. It's unusual to lose hearing in one ear. So it was because of that, nothing to do with the brain tumor. And then while they were looking at the ear, it took an extra 2 hours in the MRI. And I was thinking I was going in for literally a 15-minute MRI. And kind of 2 hours later, I was still in the tunnel. And we spoke about this, Anu, that the last MRI I'd had before that, I had pressed the panic button. And so for me, trying to get through 15 minutes, having your head in this tunnel was incredibly scary, but I managed to get through 2 hours unexpectedly. And so I was kind of quite proud of myself that I was managed, mind over matter, and I didn't press the panic button. But obviously I had to really talk to myself in that MRI because they didn't tell me what was happening. And I had to wait the full weekend until I got the news. But it felt like serendipity, and I felt that someone was looking after me, and totally blessed.
Thank you so much, Julia. And I'm really, for people who don't know what MRI is, it's really an experience that I don't think many of us would want to go through. And sitting in that small space and not knowing at that point, you didn't know that you had a tumor. You just knew that something wasn't okay. So how did you cross those 2 hours? What did you think to yourself? What was the dialogue that was going on internally? Because, that was one space, no one could reach you. You couldn't reach anyone. So who did you reach out to?
I think, Anu, I tried to have a bit of a sense of humor about it because, as you know, in an MRI, they play music. And the songs they were playing were kind of quite inappropriate. I was like, the end is near. And I just laughed at some of the music choices that were going on. I think I thought, well, fear is just not an option. It's about getting through the next 2 hours. And I felt invincible. And that is one of the lines in that TITIUM song that you mentioned at the beginning. It was just a tremendous resilience. And if it was an ending, it was also a beginning. And sometimes we just don't know it at the time. I knew it was going to be incredibly cathartic and life-changing, and that bad days build a better future. And if this was to be a bad day, there would be a better future.
Absolutely. And I love the way you say fear is not an option. Then what is the option?
The option, I think, is just to keep going, as we all have to, and take everything in bite-sized chunks. And it's perseverance and step by step. It can only be step by step.
I asked you that question because a lot of people give up very easily. They don't take the next step. They stand there waiting for things to get okay by themselves. Some miracle, some masiha to walk in there and say, hey, you know what, things are going to be okay. But if you listen to Julia right now, and you listen to those profound words that she's saying, fear is not an option. And that's not an option she gave to herself. And probably that saved her from a lot of, it's like a determination to move ahead. So I want you to go back in your life, Julia, and see between your parents, mom and dad, or maybe grandparents, who had this kind of resilience, who was it that really thought like you?
I think, Anna, it was actually both my parents. And I was telling you, I've recently just done the Hoffman Institute process, and I've been thinking quite a lot about patterns and what comes down generations. And so with my mother, she was one of 10 and not Catholic. And she was the eldest girl. So I think if you're the eldest girl in a family of 10, that teaches you a lot of resilience and caring for others, and that we're much more than what is happening to us today. And my mother had very little, but it was through education that she just pushed through. And I think that drive was very much in my sister and my childhood. And the same with my father. His father had been gassed in the First World War, and he had a very long death. He died in 1936 when my father was only 6, and they never told him his father was dead. And he was looking constantly for his father for years and years. And in that generation, in the 30s, they thought it was best not to tell him. And he was evacuated many times during the war, and he had great determination. And I remember as a child, he always said to me when things went wrong, it's character building, it's character building. So I guess that's what it is, it's character building. But yeah, very much from both my parents came from a background of drive, and each generation must do better and help others. So yeah, from both parents. But the downside is they're both very stubborn. So I think I've inherited that stubbornness, which sometimes can be good and other times.
I think it's good. I think it's really good. And it feels as if it was not just your father, but also his father. I mean, it's not easy to be in a place that he was in, and during the war, and of course your father going through his experiences. And I'm sure each one of them had to face an intense amount of fear, the fear that you felt inside the MRI tunnel. And it's amazing how, if you dig these generations, how much you can learn from them. So I'm really, you know, we are not just one person, we're a whole generation standing there. And yeah, that's like, it just makes me believe that if your ancestors did something, we just bring that into our life as a gift, as a story. You also had a lot of outer body experiences. Can you tell people what that outer body experience actually means, and what was really happening to you, and for how many years?
Yeah, so I had many out of body experiences from, I think, from being a teenager right up to about 30. So many years. I don't know why they just stopped. And often what happened was I would come out of my body and look down at myself, and it was half me and half someone else. And I quite enjoyed the experience, but I would have to sit down afterwards. It made me very faint and very dizzy. And I thought at the time I was quite spiritual, having those out of body experiences. And I never really told anyone, because I thought they would think I was quite strange. My mother knew, and I would always say to my mother, oh, I've had another funny feeling. That's what I used to call them, funny feelings. And I just thought I was perhaps a little spiritual. My grandmother, so it's my father's mother, was quite psychic, and I never met her. She died in the early 60s, and my father was extremely close to her. But she was, by all accounts, an incredibly spiritual woman. And I think her death really destroyed my father, because he was told by the doctors that there was something mentally wrong with her, and they gave her electric shock treatment and treated her for that, and yet actually it wasn't that. She actually had a physical ailment. But I feel her presence a lot, even though I never met her. So yes, talking about generations, I feel an incredible bond with her. And going back to those out-of-body experiences, it's because when I discovered I had this brain tumor, I went to see a neurosurgeon in Harley Street, and he started off, it was the weirdest thing going in to see him, because he said to me questions like, have you got any character changes, sudden religious conversions, are you hearing voices? And he picked up a pen and he said, what's this? And as I work in luxury hospitality, I said, well, I don't know what brand it is, but it's not Mont Blanc. But he was just trying to get me to say the word pen to see what brain damage I had. But one symptom I did have, and the question he asked me then was, well, have you ever had any out-of-body experiences? And I was like, oh yeah, I've had loads of those. And he said they can be typical of a growth of a brain tumor. So I didn't feel that spiritual and that special anymore. It was obviously just a physical malfunction. So I was a little bit upset that my out-of-body experiences were probably the sign of a brain tumor growing rather than anything beyond that.
It's interesting, for 20 years you didn't have any symptoms other than out-of-body experiences. And even those weren't really spoken about and discussed loudly, or there was nothing else to kind of hold it and say, and you lived a absolutely healthy life. So how did doctors know that it was dating back to maybe 20, 30 years? How did they realize that?
So my neurosurgeon said that the kind of tumor I had, it grows a certain amount on average every year. By the time they found it, it was the kind of size of an egg. So because they only grow like I think a few millimeters a year, he could estimate that it was about, well, up to 30 years old. So yeah, incredible. And I feel such a bond with him. Feel a real connection with him.
So I'm going to go to the next question for you, and there is a space where you've written about before surgery. You went to to the whys of why you have this as a tumor. Why do you have a tumor? And you even went through like getting your house cleaned up, and looking at all those things, like maybe dad carried you at 18 months. So what were the various probabilities that you thought had happened to you because of which you had that tumor? If you can just briefly tell us about it, that would be really lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. Why I thought I might have a brain tumor?
Yes.
I think everything goes through your head. Like if I just use my mobile phone too much, it's a side that I pick up my mobile phone. But my neurosurgeon said, no, he doesn't believe there is a link, but there used to be a lot of discussion about whether mobile phones created that. But of course I had it for over, for 30 years. So before mobile phones were even created, but you do think, did that make it grow? I'd also lived in Romania for a few months, and not long after Chernobyl. So I wondered if radioactivity had impacted it. My mother blamed my father because as a toddler, as we were going into the hospital to visit my mother after she'd just given birth to my younger sister, he had me on his shoulders and he walked through a door and forgot I was sitting on his shoulders. So I had pretty heavy head bang on that. So my mother, the first thing she said, well, it's all your father's fault. He walked into a door with you while you were on I was on his shoulders. So I think everything goes through your mind. And the reality is with brain tumors, they don't really know that much about them or how they come about. They think, when I saw a geneticist afterwards, that possibly it was a genetic malfunction in late stages in womb. So perhaps just the genetic sequence went a little wonky. But who knows?
But basically, it means they don't know why.
They don't know why. Not hereditary, but a genetic malfunction.
Okay, that's very interesting. You also write about the hallucinations that you had, and meeting your spirit guide and animal guide. Could you talk about that, please? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Anu. I didn't know much about spirit guides at all, but about 2 days after the brain surgery, my neurosurgeon come out of the intensive care, but also I was in hospital for a while afterwards. And he said to me, right, you're going to look like Mike Tyson now, because your eyes are going to close over. Of course, the bruising on the brain means your eyes will close and you won't be able to see for a few days. And sure enough, my eyes closed over and I was blind for a few days. The bruising made the eyes close. And it was a very strange time, really, because I saw a lot of eyes, particularly of lions. And I didn't really know that much about what that meant. And I was telling this to a friend of mine who was quite spiritual, and she was crying when I was telling her this and saying that lions are often very protective, and the animal totem is obviously one of strength and resilience. And so every time I see a lion now, whether it's a statue or a real lion or a picture, it just reminds me that they're there protecting me and looking after me. And I think the other odd time about that was I could hear this music in my head, and I was saying to the nurses and the doctors, I think someone's left the television on, so this is the time I couldn't see, and could someone turn the television off? And they said, no, the television's not on. And then I said, well, can you turn the radio off? And they said, there's no sound anywhere. And I heard this constant music, and it almost was like a backtrack for a film. I felt like a kind of a heroine in a film. And it went on for about 2 weeks. I heard this constant music. And then eventually it just stopped. And then somebody said to me, perhaps the surgeon was playing music while he was doing the 6-hour surgery. I had 3 surgeons operating on me. And so when I saw Mr. Bassi for the next time, I said, out of interest, what were you playing music while you were operating on me? And what was it? And he said, yeah, I know I was playing music. It was Happy Mondays and a load of stuff from the 80s. And so I think it's extraordinary that music from the brain surgery just stuck in my head for about 2 weeks. But I'm pleased it stopped. It was getting a little bit repetitive towards the end.
So, Julia, I'm very interested in knowing that you were not knowing anything about animal guides or animal spirits before that. And it's almost like as if your soul connected with, not with the human soul, but with animals. Any idea why would that happen? Any clue why would that happen? It's like, at that point where you're in the most vulnerable position, most vulnerable place, why would you connect to an animal that's that strong and that powerful? If there was a story around it, what would it be? Or create one.
I think the eyes of whether an animal or a human are windows to their soul. And I do think you can see a lot of people's pain and suffering through that. And I think even now when I kind of get my spirit guide, I see people's eyes. Yeah, it's extraordinary thing, but the lion was strength and protection, and there were many of them all herding around me, and that's when I started getting interested about animal totems and spirit guides. And then the hedgehog that you mentioned earlier, which sounds a bit random to most people, is after I did that Hoffman Institute process, which for those who don't know, it's kind of a psychological course where they look at patterns that come down the family and how that impacts kind of behaviours. and various situations around you, and we all had to pick a present. I didn't know what was in it, but we all had various gifts, and I was like willing myself to get the lion. They were little toys, and bears were coming out, cats, cows, etc. I was like, oh, I just hope that they're all wrapped up. I really, really hope there's a lion there, and what serendipity if I pick a lion. And I opened my little gift, and it was a hedgehog. And so I was like, of course, initially quite disappointed. I got a hedgehog and not a lion. But actually, the reality is there wasn't a lion at all. And this hedgehog looked a bit like a lion, so it made me feel that it wasn't second best at all. And then I started looking at hedgehogs and the fact that they're quite nocturnal creatures, obviously, but they have a great sense of curiosity, investigation, also protect themselves quite strongly. So I thought this was perfect. So having initially been disappointed that there wasn't a lion, that I picked a hedgehog. So the hedgehog that looks a bit like a lion, though, this particular soft toy. And I hate soft toys, really. I'm not a woman who's into soft toys on my bed, but I now do have this hedgehog on my bed.
I want to know what your soul wants, Julia. I've heard what the animals are doing for you. But I'm really interested in knowing, what does Julia's soul really want?
Wow, that's a profound question. God, I wish I really knew what I wanted. I think certainly less hustle, more heart, and that just being able to pause at times. There's certainly more to life than increasing its speed. And I think for me, it's all about having hope. Hope begins in the dark. You know, you have to just keep showing up, do the right thing, and then the dawn will come. And I do believe that dawn will come, is coming. And I think it's also about being a voice and not just an echo. And it's about daring. I want to dare more. In fact, on that Hoffman course, we were all given a card that the facilitators saw within us, but they thought it would be good to develop more. And I was really delighted to get the daring card. So what do I want? I want to dare a lot more, and to be fearless.
Wow. The last two questions that I really am itching to ask you. One is, what is love, Julia? What is love when you go through so much? What is love?
Sorry, I really don't know how to. I'm literally like Prince Charles on that question. I thought Prince Charles got quite a tough response, and some of you will know what I'm referring to. But when he was engaged to Princess Diana, they asked him about love, and he said, "Whatever love is." And I think that's a very good vantage point. But of course, Prince Charles was absolutely polarized for that comment. I mean, love means so many different things to so many different people. I'm not even sure if I know what love really is. I think one could talk about unconditional love, loyalty, respect, and doing the right thing. And it's also, I think lots about resilience as well, and something greater than what we are. Certainly, yeah, life is more than what's happening to us at that moment. And love is connected to that. And I think, there's a great quote, which is, nobility of a being is measured by its capacity of gratitude. And I think love and gratitude go hand in hand.
If there was someone who was sitting right there today in their house and hearing you out, and let's say for some reason they're going through what you've been through, what is it that you will tell this person?
Hang on in there. I think I'm a great believer in a Finnish concept called SISU, S-I-S-U, which is about perseverance. And SISU in Finnish is the word for guts or intestines, and it literally means perseverance in a task that for some people may seem crazy to undertake or almost hopeless, but you just keep going. It's about almost the Roman stoicism. And I think life is exceptionally tough for all of us. It's just about persevering and about making other people's lives just that little bit better. And I think you've got to be out of the box to think out of the box. And being slightly quirky is actually a pretty good thing. I think people used to say I was quirky, and people used to get insulted by that. But I think actually being quirky is an exceptionally good thing, because it shows individuality. Yeah, and that hope begins in the dark. I think there was a great thing that Dolly Parton said, which was that storms make trees take deeper roots. And so that's what I would say to someone: storms make trees take deeper roots. So you'll come through this, and your roots will be deeper.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
No, my pleasure.
Thank you. I am going to just ask if Christine or Anupama or Richard or James wants to ask anything to Julia. Is there anything that you guys would like to ask, or someone on the Facebook wants to ask Julia anything? To Julia. Okay, there is Sabah Khan here, who said, thank you very much. Good evening, ma'am. And Sabah is watching right now. Thank you, Sabah, for being there. Okay.
So could I just say something, Julia? I love what you said about hope begins in the dark, and do the right thing and the dawn will come. And yes, we've spoken in depth about our journeys. And I feel that that's where a lot of people, they actually don't have the belief that will come. The dawn will come. They just keep on seeing the dark and the dark and the dark and the dark. So I love that. I wrote that down. And also the one, storm makes trees grow deeper roots, because I'm absolutely would say, from what I know of you and how we've talked, and within the community of I Am Every Woman, we have, we didn't go through the storm as in, fortunately nobody in the group had COVID, but we were riding a storm last year. And I think that's actually brought us, all of us, into deeper roots, which is in actual fact us writing our stories, which we didn't know we were going to write. I had no idea when Claudia made the suggestion, although I think, Julia, it was you that suggested that we had live interviews done by Claudia, and then that sowed the seed which progressed forward into us actually writing our stories. So yes, it's been an amazing journey and been wonderful to hear some more about you. And I like the hedgehog. He's lovely.
I know,
and hey, I'm a quirky sister, so.
Richard or James or Anupama, you have anything to ask or say or acknowledge? That would be very nice.
I'd like to say something from Washington, D.C. Hi, Julia.
Hi, my dear friend James. It's so lovely to hear your voice.
Oh my God, Julia, 30 years ago when we worked together on these road shows around America, you were an inspiration, and we all admired you for how well you did and how well you represented the company. Having listened to you today, and hearing your story and what you went through in 2015, my admiration has just shot through the roof. So I am delighted that you're looking so good. I'm delighted that you're still in the hospitality because you have so much to offer. And I just want to wish you all the best. Thank you very much for doing what you've done today.
Oh, thank you, James. I mean, James, huge amounts of love back to you, because he's the most extraordinary person. We're so close. We haven't seen each other for a very long time, but it just shows that it's not about necessarily seeing people in person. If you've got a connection with someone, that will always remain. And James and I have many, many stories together, and I hope we're going to have many, many more stories to come, James. I know it's been
going as far as Thailand and Phuket and all that stuff. So
yeah, we might
yes.
want to stop on that Thailand story there.
No. But great to see.
Quite well, but
great to see
some
that you're.
secrets have to remain between.
Yes. Okay, Julie, wonderful to see you, and hopefully when COVID is over, we can get back to London and meet up with our old gang that we had in those days.
Yeah, I hope so, James. Well, love to you and all the family. Thank you for attending. It's very special.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. That was so amazing, so beautiful. I mean, you literally brought tears to my eyes, because you created a vision for Julia right now, a vision where people meet back again. And those are the kind of visions that can make people live longer and healthier. Thank you so much for that, James. Richard, would you like to say something, anything? It would just make Julia feel. Are you there, Richard? Anupama?
Yes,
I want to get himself a gin and tonic.
Okay, Anupama, would you like to say something?
Yes, I would love to. If Julia,
Yes.
it was so nice to hear you speak so candidly about your experience, and I think it takes great courage. I'm not there yet to go into the details of everything that this experience has entailed, but I hope to get there. And I think stories like yours and being witness to sessions like this kind of helps build that kind of strength and courage. So thank you so much for that.
No, well, thank you, and I very much enjoyed listening to you, and I hope we get to meet each other in person or connect on another channel, because we obviously got much in common. And I know Anu is so spiritual, and the fact that she put us together on this must mean something. So yeah, look forward to connecting properly.
Agreed. I prefer to connect us for sure.
So, Richard, are you there or having gin and tonic still?
I think he's on the second one.
Yes. I have to say something before we say a goodbye and complete the show. And I have to not just say a thank you, but I feel a completion of some kind today. And thank you for that. I also feel honesty and authenticity sitting here on this platform. And that must be definitely my mentor, Dr. Kwesi, who always says, you want to live life, live it authentically, live it honestly. And I love the way when I asked you, what's love, you said, well, I want you to tell me the last thing before you go, because you take care of elderly people at home, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? It's not easy to take care of 80-year-olds and 90-year-olds and look the way you look and smile and everything. It feels as if you've turned your story upside down and you're looking at it, and it looks more like, it doesn't look like a tumor in your head. It looks like a flower right there, giving you more glow, more happiness, more of whatever. How do you do it?
With difficulty, and I think when you're with elderly people like my parents and my aunt, it reminds you very much of your own mortality, of course, and of a frailty, and it's not nice in many ways to have that around you, because it makes you feel so fragile. Yeah, it's pretty tough, but we're all going that way, and it reminds you to enjoy your life. I think before I was very much feeling I couldn't enjoy my life because I know my parents' life will be ending soon. And I've started to turn that around to say that my parents wouldn't want me to live my life like that now. Because when you have elderly parents, you know, they can live 10, 20, 30 years. Obviously, it depends on kind of what stage they are. But I think I've been preparing for my parents' death for a very long time. But by doing that, one's not living one's own life fully. And it's if you're able to live your own life fully, but to be totally present for the elderly people, if you're able to align those two things, that's surely got to be the way to do it. You have to live your own life. But you also have to be aware of one's own frailty. So it's a very delicate balance, is all I was saying. And I struggle with it many times, really struggle.
Thank you. I love you. Take care of yourself.
Thank
Christine.
you. And thank you, Christine, too. Very much appreciated.
I would like Christine to end the show and complete this. Thank you.
So again, this evening we have had an amazing interview, and I love the questions that sometimes stump us, because occasionally, like Julia, I had some questions which I was going, oh yes, that's very profound, and yes, how am I going to answer this? But Anu, you have an amazing skill in the questions you ask, and it's not. You've done your research, you've read the stories, not just once, not twice, how many times, and you've pulled the bits out that you want to ask the questions, or what interested you with regard to the person's story. And for me, that actually helps us all see again the essence of the book and what we were all doing when we wrote our stories, which was being courageous and brave and authentic. We have actually put some keywords down in our lives that we perhaps would never have written before. So I thank you so much for doing this week's interview. I am not sure who we have next week, but
we have Elodie. Okay. So yes. Thank you very much. And we have Elodie next week. So I'm just having so much of fun with all of you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be able to talk to such amazing people. Love you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.